Queenies, April 11th, 1976. Queen are supporting a night at the opera, and on this day they are playing in Perth, Australia at the Perth Entertainment Centre. Now, this was not Queen's first trip to Australia. They were there in 1974, where they were booed off the stage at the Sunbury Festival. And Freddie Mercury vowed the next time they came back to Australia that they would be the biggest band of the world. And he lived up to that, as Bohemian Rhapsody was topping the charts at this time, and they were just a huge band. So I couldn't find any live footage of this concert, but there is an interview that's fairly famous and around that you can find of them in Perth giving an interview, which is just, it's great, and Freddie is just adorable. So check this out.
Do you feel that Night at the Opera is perhaps you've reached a climax at a certain stage in your career? Because I believe it's definitely the best that you've ever done.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think it's possibly the peak so far because it's the most successful. But I mean, we hope we're going to get better.
We get a different peak. It is going to be difficult, especially with Bohemian Rhapsody being as large.
Well, a kid wrote me a letter about that and said, I study demonology and satanic things. Why do they use Beelzebub? And I suppose that's a legitimate question.
Why do we use it?
Yeah.
It's just why do we use anything? I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean I study demonology and things. I just love the word Beelzebub. It's a great word, isn't it?
Very camp word when you look at it. Actually, the letter was signed with a cloven hoof at the top. What is that?
The same sect. I belong to that.
You're sticking pins in effigies.
The next single that's coming off Night at the Opera is You're My Best Friend, I understand. And already we're getting a lot of requests for that. But it's entirely different in structure to Bohemian Rhapsody, and that's what makes the album attractive to me. Is it
This
right?
is John's song.
Yeah. John wrote.
Yes, because I mean that's probably one thing in the group that we all do right, which lends to the variety of our albums. You know, it's a very good thing, I think.
There have been several songs on your albums that have been involved with death and all this sort of stuff. Is that just an accidental thing, or?
That's Freddie's morbid mind. Then.
One of my docile moods, actually.
There's a thing that everybody, I suppose, is going to be wondering about, the campness of the act. That was one of the things I read in the pop press in England, that the act was a little bit camp and all this stuff.
It's not really camp, you know. It's rock and roll, and it's very visual as well. There's a lot of rock and roll music there. And
I think it's the same as the variety content that we have on the album. We try and put that across on stage. So I mean, each song that we do has a different sort of meaning to it. So I mean, you know, it is rock and roll as a sort of label, but within that, I mean, each song has a different.
Would you say it was rock and roll with theatre?
Yes, you could call it that. I mean, it's very difficult to label because each song is in a different sort of category, really. I mean.